What the f just happened in Richmond? Seriously, it's like 1999 Bristol again. Option tires should have been the story, but instead, it's pros versus amateurs. Intentional wrecking with in-car audio confirming a wild finish on a Sunday night short track racing. What does past president tell us about NASCAR potentially taking away the victory? NASCAR's Elton Sawyer weighs into the media to answer the question, should NASCAR take away the Richmond win from Austin Dillon? Let's get into it.
High, push it, checker flag, hell yeah!
What's the caution for? Mate?
Can I not push it in?
Stop anybody.
Come on, these guys! Way to go, boys! One hell of a job, man, one hell of a job. Thank you so much.
Honestly, I'm dumbfounded on this one. I am so split on this. We're going to talk about everything that we just saw out at Richmond. Obviously, we're going to talk about the last lap. Yes, it's 1999 Bristol all over again, but what's the difference? Dale versus Austin, we're going to get into it. But honestly, I'm just dumbfounded. You got to leave me a comment down below. What did you think about the wild finish that we saw out at Richmond? And while you're down there, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss a video. And of course, make sure that you log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I'm honestly just shaking my head. I am completely dumbfounded at what we saw out at Richmond. Let's kind of talk about everything. NASCAR coming back from its 2-week break to a controversial, wild last lap out at Richmond. More specifically, a wild last turn and fight to the straightaway that did see the race not only go into overtime, but end under caution officially. I'm flabbergasted. At least the first person to the line was Austin Dillon. Therefore, Austin Dillon, at the moment, technically has won the race out at Richmond and technically has locked himself into the playoffs, despite the fact that coming into this race, he was 32nd in points. NASCAR eliminating the rule that you have to be in the top 30 in points in order to make the playoffs if you get a victory. So Austin Dillon, his season's over. It's junk. It's garbage. At least it was before the 2-week break. Post 2-week break, he comes out to Richmond and just tears it up. It is just unbelievable what he did. He did have an extraordinarily fast car. You got to hand it to him. You got to hand it to RCR. And I said it on the Team Chaos live stream that started at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. local time for me in California. And it just, I said it before that restart. No matter what happened on that restart, you got to give RCR credit because they brought a piece, at least for Dillon, to the track. And yes, the 8 car wasn't exactly the best. Kyle Busch does need to have a better season. He needs to, frankly, a little something right now. We're going to get into that, but let's go ahead and start with this, the option tire. Rousing success. Honestly, I was kind of on the fence about it. I was kind of like, what's this really going to do? This is awesome. It truly did help to produce some phenomenal racing. It really, truly did, and I got to give Goodyear and NASCAR props. I feel like there could be a little bit more of a disparity. Yes, I truly mean it. And I'm being sincere here. Why not go full F1 at this point and give us 3 options? Give us, and call it the same. Make the phraseology the same just to make it easier. Hard, medium, soft. Simple. And you can literally use the same colors that F1 uses just to make it universal for race fans because that's what most race fans already know. Let's go ahead and adapt that and not do a chase versus the playoff terminology discussion like we did already in NASCAR history. It worked for about 30 laps where it was insanely good, and then around that time period, depending on how hard the driver was running, it started to taper off, and then right around between 40 and 50 laps, drivers would come in, switch out the option tire for the standard tire, and I thought it was great, honestly. You gave them 2 sets to use during the race, and you definitely saw different strategies on when to do that, and that produced some really fun, honestly, cool moments on the track. One of the big stories coming into this race was the fact that Kyle Busch did have a left wrist issue. During the Indianapolis crash that he sustained 3 weeks ago, he sprained his left wrist, and he was walking around with a little cast on it. And at the caution on lap 240, we actually saw him with a pair of scissors cutting away at that cast and getting rid of it. And that was very Earnhardt-like. That was awesome. I absolutely loved it. And in the moment, I thought, This is an Earnhardt moment. We're not going to see another Earnhardt moment tonight. Boy, was I wrong. Moving ahead a little bit around that time, I should say, Martin Truex Jr. loses an engine. This has kind of been a big storyline for Toyota and for Gibbs in particular, because Ty Gibbs did have some engine issues before the 2-week Olympic break, and now Martin Truex Jr. finishes dead last out at Richmond tonight, and he is 42 points to the good in the playoffs. He was significantly more than that just a few weeks ago, but other drivers winning, locking themselves, catapulting themselves into the playoffs have drastically changed this to the point where Martin Truex Jr., if he has another couple of bad weeks, doesn't look 100% locked in like he did several weeks ago. You got to watch out for those Gibbs engines. You got to wonder, is this part of the reason that Toyota's TRD president, David Wilson, is stepping down? A lot of people think so. I don't know. The guy has been working with Toyota forever. I think he's just retiring. The timing of this is interesting during the 2-week break. Maybe that's when he decided, you know what, here's where we're going to announce it. Here's where we're going to just get it out there so we can focus on the playoffs moving forward and I can work with my predecessor. Maybe that was the thought process. Maybe it is something going on internally behind the scenes that we're not privy to. I tend to think it's the latter because of how these engines have been grenading the last couple of weeks for Gibbs in particular. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. One of the stories very early on in the race was the second Richmond date talk. And there's a lot of discussion during the offseason that Mexico City is actually going to be getting a NASCAR Cup Series date next year. The Athletics' Jordan Bianchi was reporting that, and that Mexico was heavily favored over a race north of the border up in Canada. And that is still kind of tracking. That's still kind of the rumor discussion in the garage. The negotiations are still ongoing. Nothing's official yet, but it's looking very positive, like we are heading down to Mexico in 2025 with the Cup Series. And it's coming from that date is coming from the second Richmond date, this date. And no, I do not think that this finish and the controversy around this race finish is going to save a second Richmond date. Honestly, before the race, you saw how bad the grandstands were. We saw a lot of people talking about it on social media. And yes, it did fill out a little bit better once the race actually started. Let's not kind of push our own agenda here. Let's be factual here. Yes, it did fill out pretty decently, but it still wasn't a sellout. It was far from a sellout. I do think that just because of on-track racing, that this race does need to stay a Sunday night race, and it does need to only go down to one date. I'm a big fan of one-date racetracks. You look at some racetracks that do deserve second dates, the Daytonas with the 500, and then the what is effectively known as the Coke 400, the Pepsi 400, depending on what generation you're from. Those are fine. Two Talladega races, maybe you can talk me into that, but I do think that single race dates is better. That way we can go to more areas of the country. That way more fans can get out to the racetrack and not have to, drive 2, 3, 4 states over to get to their local racetrack. Get NASCAR Cup Series racing in front of more people across the country is my theory. And that it does include, in my opinion, going north and south of the border. But that's just my discussion. This finish does not save a second Richmond date in 2025. No chance. They'll give the second date, Richmond date, to literally anyone else besides Richmond, I think, before we go back to Richmond a second date. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, but that's just what I feel right now. Looking at Austin Dillon before that final lap, you got to hand it to him. He brought the speed. This is what the 3 car should be doing. He should be running in the top 5. This car, this number, a black number 3, needs to be in the top 10 at the bare minimum. That's why so many people want to see Austin Dillon get out of the 3 car and either retire to the boardroom with Grandpa or move over to the 8 car or move over to another car or move down to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. But instead, Austin Dillon is here. That is fine. I'm okay with him being in the 3 car for now if he wants to finish his career in that 3 car, simply because he wants the 3 car because it is his grandfather's car. And to be fair, it was before Earnhardt. Earnhardt made it famous, but yes, give the kid his grandfather's number. Let him run it. Why not? I don't have a problem with that. However, 32nd in points. 32nd in points coming into this. Does this driver truly deserve to be in the playoffs? Not really. There's no way you can convince me he can be. I think pure and simple, he's a guy who isn't going to make the playoffs. He's a waste of a playoff spot. I've been seeing other people talk about this. The Iceberg talked about it on his post-race show, and I agree. He's a waste of a playoff spot, period. He's going to be out round one. Maybe he gets lucky because other drivers get into issues in the first round, and maybe he squeaks into round two, but he's not going further than that. There's no way. Even if the speed that we saw tonight translates somewhere down the road to other racetracks, I still don't see them doing it. I really, really, really don't. Best case scenario, round of 8, but even then, that seems like a big, big, big leap for RCR with how they have been struggling with consistency. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe they found something during the 2-week break, and maybe they brought somebody in secretly, and there's been somebody over there who's been helping out over there at RCR, and maybe they did find something, and maybe they're going to go on a tear here, similar to a Tony Stewart, and just start winning every other race. But I don't believe that. I really don't. I'd have to see that, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week. But it does deserve some credit where it is due. But NASCAR did remove that top 30 playoff rule. That is something that was removed, and now there's no precedent for that. So now it doesn't matter where you are in the point standings, just as long as you've made every start. But even that is very vague because of handing out waivers for stupid things like choosing to run the Indianapolis 500 instead of racing the one of the biggest NASCAR races of the year. I don't think it matters. I think this playoff format just kind of screws up the consistency, screws up the actual championship, screws up how drivers go on to win a championship. I don't believe that in the last 10 years, all 10 of those years went to the most deserving driver. I feel like there might have been somebody else in those years, and I'm not here to get into the specifics of that, but it does kind of make it look like this is more for entertainment and not for sport. And we're going to talk about NASCAR being at a crossroads later. Let's actually talk about this last lap and my issues with it and the facts here. The last lap. Let's start with Austin Dillon purposefully dumping the 22. This is like official. There's no way around this. He dumped him. That was intentional. Austin Dillon confirmed that, yes, I intentionally ran into the back of the 22. He said that. It is confirmed. It is not a question, period. And it is extraordinarily reminiscent to Earnhardt spinning Labonte back in 1999 at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Night race, short track racing, black number 3 versus an eerily similar yellow car, spinning him out, taking him out, dumping him out of the way, whatever you want to call that, and the 3 car going on to win. Now, there is a big difference. More specifically, it is the right hooking of Denny Hamlin out of 4. That is very egregious. It is very egregious, and that is the one rule that fans, drivers, almost universally have all agreed you need to ban this move in NASCAR. And I think that this is the clear-cut moment where NASCAR does need to ban the right hook. The last time we saw a right hook, a purposeful right hook, was actually Chase Elliott, who did get a 1-race suspension for wrecking, ironically, the 11 car. And the 11 car more or less gets right hooked again here. And this time, Hamlin doesn't go all the way around. He just slaps the outside wall, but he does lose the win and the lead effectively. And I do think that that is a 1-race suspension in and of itself. That's where I stand on this, simply for the right hook of the 11 car by the 3 car. So Austin Dillon shouldn't be going to the racetrack next week, and I'd argue maybe 2 races. The other thing is that the in-car audio is extremely damning.
Coming down, run him down, back in, come on, back in!
That's the in-car audio of the number 3 car of Austin Dillon right there. Wreck him. I mean, it's so obvious that he was being told that. That's just one part of it. The SMT data will more than likely back up the fact that, yes, he turned the wheel down. We saw the hands. We saw everything in the car doing it. So there's not a question in my mind. He intentionally wrecked not only the 22, but the 11 car, and intentionally wrecking someone has a complex history, let's just say, because starting off, you have Kenseth versus Logano at Martinsville. That resulted in a 1-race suspension by Matt Kenseth. You have LaJoie versus Kyle Busch at Pocono this year. Absolutely nothing done with that one. Logano on Byron at Darlington. That was intentional. Nothing happened there. But then at the same time, Bubba Wallace and the 5 of Kyle Larson at Las Vegas, that resulted in Bubba Wallace sitting out a race. So there's a mixed bag here of, yes, a 1-race suspension is appropriate, but at the same time, sometimes it's not. When it's for a win, it's all over the place. NASCAR has taken away victories in the past. That is definitely something that they can do. However, will they in this situation? That is the big question. NASCAR's Elton Sawyer did meet with media outside of the media center, ironically. Just walk inside where there's better lighting, guys. I'm just saying next time. And we got this video from Bob Pockris on his Twitter. Just take a listen.
Our sport has been a contact sport for a long time. We always hear, where's the line? And did someone cross the line? I would say that the last lap, it was awful close to the line. We'll take a look at all the available resources from audio to video. Listen to spotters, we'll listen to crew chiefs and drivers, and if anything rises to a level that we feel like we need to penalize, then we'll do that on Tuesday.
In the past, NASCAR has been, when somebody's gotten hooked on the right rear like that, or NASCAR's penalized in this situation, it looked like that. What's NASCAR's interpretation?
Yeah, I would say we'll look at all the available resources, look at audio, we'll look at video, look at SMT data, as we normally do on a situation like this, and make a determination on Tuesday.
Could you take the win? Could you take the win away, or
historically
take the away, or are you talking points?
Yeah, historically that hasn't been our DNA to take races away, but that's not to say that going forward this wouldn't start to set a precedent. We'd have to look at it.
Yeah, my initial thoughts. First off, close to the line? Nah, that was like all up on that line, and it definitely went one way or another depending on where you stand on this situation. I think it went over the line just a little bit. The right hooking and the audio were both equally the smoking gun in this situation to me personally. Expect a big announcement on Tuesday. We're going to talk about it again on Tuesday once we kind of all digest this information and really see what NASCAR decides on Tuesday. But expect that announcement no later than Tuesday, if not Monday night. But what he said there was very interesting, that it's not in their DNA to take away victories. You guys just took a victory away from Gibbs, and more specifically from Denny Hamlin at Pocono a couple of years ago for a literal sticker. Like a literal sticker breaking your precious rules. I get it. Yes, that win should have been taken away. But somebody who is literally using their car as a weapon on the racetrack doesn't actually get penalized. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I do think that the case for taking away the win is as strong as it's ever been, honestly. And I'm kind of in the middle of this, honestly. I'd be surprised if NASCAR does take the win away, and simultaneously be surprised if they don't take the win away. I could see it going both ways, honestly, with what is being discussed over at NASCAR, what is being discussed among the drivers, among crew members, around people in the garage area, but also with fans. They seem to be a little 50-50 split on this. Yes, not that many people like Denny Hamlin and not that many people like Joey Logano, but at the same time, you got to understand this is a little too much. The right hooking of Hamlin and the intentional wrecking of both of them, the intentional right hooking of Hamlin, I think is the biggest one. And I do think that NASCAR is going to, one way or another, make some headlines on Tuesday. I think that there also is an issue that does need to be addressed one way or another. This situation should not be allowed, and I honestly don't know who's at fault, simply because I was not at the track tonight. I honestly I'm going to play this video, and I'll let you tell me what you think of this situation, because this might be as egregious as that last lap right hook, in my opinion. It is a bigger safety issue. Somebody could get killed. It needs to be addressed. Yes, I am dead serious on this one. Noah Lewis got this video of Joey Logano coming up to the pit box of the 3 car. Now, to me, this is extremely damning. This is this is almost as worse as what we saw on the racetrack. The difference is that's on the racetrack where it's meant to be. This is on pit road. People's lives are in danger. There are 2 women who have infant children on that pit road as Joey Logano slides to a stop dangerously close to both of them. Sliding, losing control of your vehicle is a possibility on pit road at all times, regardless of how fast you're going, period. I don't care. And post-race is extraordinarily dangerous. I will tell you from personal experience, from being a credentialed NASCAR reporter for 15 years, I will tell you, pit road after a race is extremely crazy, hectic, chaotic, crowded, and dangerous. It's always been dangerous. I do think that NASCAR could and should do a better job of maintaining pit road security the moment the checkered flag flies. You have people like myself who are reporters, who have credentialed media vests, who are told rules that we follow. Except I've seen those rules broken personally by my colleagues and no repercussions brought down from NASCAR for it. You have family members of crew members, of drivers, walking on pit road who are credentialed in most cases, or at least have a media credential or a pass of some kind from NASCAR. I think that security could be tighter on pit road. We need to kind of shore up that gray area. There are rules, but they're extraordinarily loosely enforced, at least in my experience over the last 15 years. They're only getting looser. More often than not, each racetrack hires local security, which comes from an agency which know nothing of the sport, have very, 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 very little training going into the event, and simply do not know the rules and safety risks of the event. I think it's time for NASCAR to hire NASCAR security for working pit road specifically, simply because it is an area of the racing surface. There is a risk on pit road, period, no matter how you look at it. But I do think that this is an area that honestly needs to be talked about as much as what we saw on the last lap on the racetrack, period. I don't think Joey Logano should have slid to a stop like that. That was done in anger. But I also think that take away what happened on this last lap, if this was just a normal race where we didn't see on-track drama on the last lap and there wasn't any disagreement or rage, if something mechanically goes wrong with the car and a driver loses control on pit road, safety measures should be in place to keep all personnel on pit road and behind the pit wall safe at all times. And if you disagree with me on that, we're not having the same conversation. I'm sorry. Before we get out of here, I want to leave you with this thought. We don't know where NASCAR is going to land on this come Tuesday. They're either going to let the win stand and let Austin Dillon's win stand and then take away points, take away playoff eligibility, take away whatever they're going to take away, or they're going to take the win away and do all of the above. No matter where NASCAR lands on this, it's a turning point in the sport. Because let's face it, NASCAR has gotten a little unprofessional on the racetrack in the last few years, and it's been trending that direction in the lower series as well, particularly the truck series. And now NASCAR's at a turning point. They're either going to be the outlaws that they were when the sport was founded, before the sport was founded, or the professionals that they wanted to become. They're going to be amateurs, or they're going to be pros about this. There is a clear right and wrong. Denny Hamlin isn't the only one who brings up the example of, think of the children. You are setting a precedent for racing at short tracks across not only the country, but I'd argue the world. Because let's be honest here, NASCAR is supposed to be the best form of motorsports in the United States. And the United States, not to be political, want to be the greatest country on earth. That means we're setting an example for everyone here in the States. Are we doing that at the moment? I don't know, to be honest with you. NASCAR has an opportunity here to showcase that we can be better, that we want to be better, that we should be better. And will they take away the win, or will they let it stand? We're going to find out on Tuesday. We'll come back on Tuesday, react to whatever NASCAR decides, whenever they decide it within the next few days. So make sure that you mash the subscribe button and come on back for the next video. Make sure that you also check out arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I want to thank you so much for watching. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.